Pep Guardiola has always been hailed as a coach who values youth development, right? He's known for bringing through young talent and giving them a chance. But here's the twist. At Manchester City, it's almost like he's flipped the script. Instead of nurturing the academy gems, he's been selling them off. And that's starting to bite back, especially this season. But here's the real question. Is Pep picking wealth over youth? And which key players, if he'd kept them, could have made all the difference for him and City this season? Well, let's get into it. Despite being one of the richest clubs in football and led by the tactical genius of Pep Guardiola, City's youth system has become less of a pathway to the first team and more of a cash cow. While the world celebrates City's dominance, beneath the surface lies a glaring issue. The academy isn't feeding the squad, and the cracks are beginning to show. In the last decade, City's academy has churned out incredible talent. Players who've gone on to shine at the highest levels, but rarely in a sky blue shirt. Instead of developing these young stars to fit into Pep's plans, they've been sold off, leaving City to rely heavily on aging stars or expensive signings. And now, with injuries, fatigue, and an aging core, it's clear that the wealth over youth strategy might be Pep's biggest misstep. It's ironic because this wasn't always Pep Guardiola's way. At Barcelona, Pep's brilliance was built on a foundation of youth. The famous La Masia Academy wasn't just a pipeline, it was the beating heart of his legendary team. Players like Lionel Messi, Xavi, and Andrea Iniesta weren't just stars, they were academy graduates who defined his philosophy of trust in youth and continuity. Pep's success there wasn't just about tactical innovation. It was about blending raw, homegrown talent with a world-class experience. But in the City, he has flipped the script. Despite overseeing one of the most productive academies in the world, Pep's focus has shifted. The youth system here isn't a platform for building the future. It's a lucrative business model. Talented youngsters are sold for millions before they can even challenge for a first-team spot, leaving the squad to rely on aging stars and high-profile transfers. This shift in strategy has worked wonders in terms of revenue and trophies, but now it's beginning to unravel. With injuries piling up and an aging core struggling to maintain their edge, the absence of young, homegrown reinforcements is glaring. But what if they had kept some players? Wouldn't this have changed their season? Well, let's see. The first player who got away and would have made a difference this season is Romeo Lavia. I mean, you've got a 16-year-old gem from Anderlecht, someone who shows every sign of being the next big thing. You nurture him at your academy, teach him the City way, and when he's ready to step up, you sell him for 10 million quid.
I think he's the player people don't talk about because he didn't cost 115 million quid. He's fantastic.
It sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what Pep and City did in 2020. Lavia, a player whose style screams Rodri 2.0, was sold to Southampton instead of being integrated into the first team. And here's the kicker. Just 1 year later, Southampton turned around and sold him to Chelsea for a whopping £53 million after a bidding war with Liverpool. City essentially allowed someone else to polish their diamond, and now they're paying the price. Fast forward to today, and City could really use a Romeo Lavia. Rodri, the spine of their midfield, is out with a season-ending injury. Mateo Kovacic is also sidelined, and when he played, he did not show that Rodri quality to break up play and progress the ball forward, leaving Pep scrambling to rely on a 34-year-old Gundogan to hold the fort in midfield. And let's be honest, Gundogan's a legend, but he doesn't have the legs to do it week in and week out. Now imagine Lavia in this squad, dynamic, tenacious, and composed beyond his years. He could have been the perfect solution. When Lavia played for Chelsea against Tottenham recently, he changed the game. His defensive awareness, ability to break up play, and composure in transitioning from defense to attack are exactly what City needs right now. But nope, Pep decided to sell. And here's the frustrating part. Had City just loaned him out instead of cashing in, they'd have had a ready-made replacement for Rodri right now. Instead, they're left scrambling, while Lavia thrives elsewhere. It's decisions like these that make you wonder, was the quick £10 million worth it? Or was it a short-sighted move that's now coming back to haunt them? Before we talk about another player who could have helped Pep, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Another one that stings is a star who was sold too soon. Cole Palmer. I mean, having a player who grew up in your academy, knows the system inside and out, and consistently delivers when given the chance, and then you sell him for what? Just £42.5 million. Let that sink in. 42.5 million. That's peanuts in today's market, especially when you consider what Palmer brings to the table. And here's the part that gets me. City sold Palmer for less than they paid for Jeremy Doku. Doku cost them a hefty £55 million, and while he's got flair and speed, let's be honest, he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. Meanwhile, Palmer, who already proved he can shine on the big stage, was sent packing to Chelsea. Think about it. This is a guy who came through City's ranks, scored in crucial games like the Community Shield and the UEFA Super Cup, and had the it factor. Every time Parma was given a chance, he delivered. But instead of seeing him as a long-term asset, Pep and City seemed to view him as expendable. Why? Well, Pep wanted to ease him into the team while focusing more on Phil Foden. And look, Foden's brilliant, no arguments there. But this season, Foden hasn't scored a single goal. Meanwhile, Parma's already making waves at Chelsea, showing he can adapt, score, and assist in a struggling side. Here's the thing, City didn't need to choose between Parma and Foden. They could have had both. Imagine a scenario where Mahrez is slowly phased out and Parma takes up that spot in the squad. You get to keep a homegrown star who's already accustomed to the team's style of play, and you save millions on buying someone like Doku, who's still adjusting to Pep's demanding system. And Parma's skill set is something City could really use right now. He's got the ability to play in tight spaces, he's clinical in front of goal, and he's a player who thrives in pressure situations. Can you say the same about Doku yet? Not really. Selling Parma wasn't just a financial mistake, it was a footballing one. He had the potential to become a key player for City for years to come. Instead, they've handed Chelsea a gem while spending more on a player who hasn't proven he can consistently deliver at this level. So here we are, watching Parma light it up at Chelsea while City struggles with a lack of creativity and consistency in their attack. You can't help but wonder, was Pep too quick to cash in on him? Or could he have held on to him for one more season? Or did he simply underestimate just how good Parma could become? Either way, it's a decision that's looking worse with every passing game.
It's the same like before the last time we spoke about him, same case with Phil, and the pass with the Jadon Sancho. So I think the academy has to be so proud.
Another player that Manchester City sold from their youth setup is Brahim Diaz. Remember him? If you don't, that's probably because City let him go before we really got to see what he could do in their shirt. Brahim Diaz is the kind of player Pep usually loves. He's quick, versatile, technical, and oozing creativity. But instead of nurturing and giving him a chance to grow, City sold him to Real Madrid for just £15 million. And what did they get out of it? A big fat nothing. Meanwhile, Diaz has been quietly developing into a proper baller. Now here's the thing about Brahim. He's the kind of player City could use right now. Think about it. This season, City's attack has lacked that cutting edge at times. Savinho, for all his price tag and work rate, has just 3 assists and 1 goal so far. Meanwhile, Diaz is out there for Real Madrid, making clever runs, unlocking defenses, and adding flair to the attack. I mean, Diaz has 2 goals and 2 assists in 13 games, which doesn't sound impressive, until you factor in the fact that he's only played 582 minutes this season, which is less than 7 games. And it's not like City wouldn't have room for him. Diaz would have been the creative link between the midfield and attack, someone who could play in tight spaces and deliver those killer passes. Instead, City now have to spend big money on someone like Savinho, who hasn't yet proven he's on Brahim's level. Keeping Brahim Diaz could have saved Manchester City millions. They wouldn't need to dip into the market for every creative player when they had one homegrown, ready to explode right under their noses. But no, they let him go, probably thinking they could buy someone else. And while City's financial muscle usually makes that a safe bet, this time it feels like they backed the wrong horse. What's frustrating is how perfectly Brahim's style fits Pep's philosophy. He's comfortable on the ball, thrives in possession-based football, and can play multiple positions. It sound familiar? Yeah, it's like he was tailor-made for this team. But instead, he's now showcasing those skills somewhere else. So here we are again, watching another City Academy product shine for another club. Meanwhile, Pep's team looks stale and in desperate need of fresh ideas. You can't help but wonder, if Brahim had stayed, could he have been the spark to ignite City's attack this season? One thing's for sure, letting him go feels like yet another missed opportunity. Another attacker who got away from Manchester City due to no clear path to the first team was Jadon Sancho. The former Man City player is now on loan at Chelsea and has done better this season than some of Pep's wingers. Sancho isn't just any winger, he's a special kind of player. He's got that mix of flair, creativity, and composure that makes you sit up and watch. And sure, he hasn't had the most consistent run at Chelsea this season, but with 2 goals and 5 assists already, he's quietly making an impact. Now compare that to Jack Grealish, City's £100 million man, who's sitting on a total of 2 assists this season. Yep, just 2. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. Sancho's style of play, his ability to drive at defenders, pick out a killer pass, and even pop up with the odd goal, feels tailor-made for Pep's system. He's got that football IQ to fit into a team like City, and he's proven he can deliver when given the chance. Sancho on one wing, Foden or Palmer on the other, and Haaland waiting in the middle to finish off their deliveries. That's a scary front three, isn't it? But instead, City let Sancho go, and for what? A measly £8 million transfer fee when he moved to Dortmund. Fast forward a few years, and Sancho became one of the most sought-after talents in Europe, eventually making his way back to the Premier League for a massive fee. What's wild is that Sancho could have saved City a fortune. I mean, they tried to keep him, but were not showing him away to the first team. Instead of spending big on wingers who haven't quite lived up to their price tags, they could have had a homegrown star, already adapted to Pep's style of play. Sancho's quick feet, vision and creativity would have been the perfect solution to some of City's attacking problems this season. And let's not ignore what he does better than Grealish. While Jack's great at keeping possession and drawing fouls, Sancho brings directness and efficiency. He's not just there to slow the game down, he's there to make things happen. It's hard not to think Sancho would have added that extra edge that City's attack has been missing. In hindsight, losing Sancho feels like one of City's biggest missteps. It's like they had this rare diamond but sold it off before realizing just how valuable it could be. Watching him now, you can't help but wonder how different things might have been if Pep had kept him around. One thing's for sure, Sancho in a City shirt would have been a game-changer. Aside from the attack, 2 gems were lost in defense. The right-back situation has been a sore spot for Manchester City this season, and you know what's crazy? They could have had it all sorted without spending a single penny. I'm talking about players like Pedro Porro and Jeremy Frimpong, who came through City's youth setup and could have been absolute gems for Pep. But what did Pep do? Well, he let them go, and now he's scrambling for solutions. First, let's talk about Pedro Porro. He's making waves at Tottenham, showing everyone how good he is. City sold him to Sporting Lisbon for about £7 million, and after a successful stint there, he eventually made a move to Spurs for much more. Imagine how much money City could have saved if they kept Porro around and given him a shot. The guy is fast, versatile, and knows how to bomb down the right flank. Exactly the kind of player Pep loves. Instead, City decided to roll the dice with Kyle Walker, who's, well, he's not exactly getting any younger, is he? And left Porro to thrive elsewhere. And there is Jeremy Frimpong, another one that's a bit hard to swallow, especially when you see him performing at such a high level at Bayer Leverkusen. Frimpong has that explosive pace, a real attacking threat down the right, and he's comfortable with the ball at his feet, like Porro. He's the type of fullback that could have turned into a real weapon in this system. But no, City let him go too. Look, I get it. You can't keep every talented player, but the question has to be asked. Why keep players like João Cancelo, who wasn't even fully bought into Pep's system, letting these 2 incredibly talented fullbacks slip through the cracks? The right-back position is a real issue for City right now. Walker, while still a solid option, is starting to look like he's lost a step. And at 34, you have to wonder how much longer he can keep up with the demands of top-level football. I know they have Rico Lewis, but he's different. The kid's good, no doubt, but he's not your traditional right-back. He's more of a midfielder who's been shifted into that role. Sure, he's been solid, but you can't help but think that if City had kept one of Porro or Frimpong, they would have had a much better long-term solution at right-back, saving themselves the hassle of scrambling for reinforcements. Now Pep is going to have to dip into the transfer market for a new right-back, potentially paying top dollar for someone to fill a hole that could have been avoided. Porro and Frimpong could have provided that solution. Homegrown, hungry, and ready to make an impact. But instead, they're lighting it up for other teams, while City now has to spend big to fix a problem they could have solved years ago. It's just another reminder of how Pep's focus on wealth over youth is costing City right now. If he trusted these guys, who knows? They could have been playing key roles for City today. If we're talking about how Pep Guardiola's strategy of prioritizing big money signings over promoting youth has cost Manchester City, it's hard to ignore the overall impact. The reality is that all these homegrown players, Lavia, Palmer, Sancho, Porro, Frimpong, could have been integral parts of the squad today, saving City millions and providing the club with the kind of hunger and adaptability that often gets lost in the shiny new signings. When you look at the current situation at City, it feels like they've built a squad full of expensive players who don't necessarily gel the way they should. Sure, they've got world-class talent like Haaland, De Bruyne and Rodri, but they've also got a lot of aging players, big money buys who aren't living up to expectations, and key areas of the squad like right back or the attacking wing where things aren't quite working as well as they should. Let's be real, when you're spending massive amounts of cash, it's tempting to think you can solve every problem with another shiny new toy. But you can't ignore that City's youth academy, which has produced some of the best talents in English football, has been largely underutilized by Pep, and now they're paying the price. I mean, look at it this way. Palmer, Sancho, and Lavia have gone on to prove themselves at other clubs, making an impact every time they play. Meanwhile, City has had to spend a fortune on players like Doku, who, don't get me wrong, has his moments, when they could have had someone like Palmer thriving in the same role without the massive price tag. The problem with Pep's approach is that, instead of giving these talented youth players more chances to prove themselves in the first team, he's relied heavily on the market to solve his problems. But why do you think Pep is picking wealth over youth? Well, let me know in the comments, and when you're done, you can watch our last video on why Pep regrets selling Palmer.